I've always known that I was looking through the lenses of a body, a conduit that allows me to be here. This form seems to be acceptable to others, but I knew that underneath these eyes, so to speak, that I am an ET being. Then I know that I'm here on assignment. I've always felt an immense level of responsibility of what I've come to do. So instead of being called to play, I would prefer to stand still and observe so I can learn better, because I was in learning mode. And I knew that all the learning to my sensory point, my physical body, memory, emotion, all of the above was transmitting data. I am transmitting all that information back to my group, who in turns communicate with me. So I've always known who I am. We're never here to interfere and deprive you from the most powerful experience you can have, which is re-evolution, re-evolving, re-ascending again. Many of the beings on the planet, including myself, we are very ancient ones. We have no needs. We've already ascended.
Welcome to the Endless Possibilities Podcast, where the journey of spiritual awakening and energy healing unfolds.
Hello, and welcome to the Endless Possibilities Podcast. My name is Garrett, and in today's episode, I'm happy to be inviting my latest guest, Vivian Chavez. Vivian is an interstellar being. Her soul avatar essence has returned in a projected hybrid human form as an emissary for the re-ascension timeline. Renowned for her advanced healing services, Vivian has conducted over 23,000 private sessions worldwide in the past 12 years. As an oracle of Arcturus, her mission consists of traveling from star system to star system and assisting civilizations on the verge of their evolutionary ascension process. Her intergalactic delegation is a member of the Federation of Light and collaborates with many star regencies. Over the past decade, Vivian has given many lectures at conferences and gatherings and has been interviewed on numerous radio shows and online summits. She is featured in the multi-award-winning documentary Extraordinary: The Revelation, and will be featured in an upcoming documentary based on the book The Extraterrestrial Species. Vivian, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Oh, thank you so much, Garrett, for inviting me. It's a joy to be with you and everyone watching.
Yeah, so let me just give the viewers just a little bit of background on how I came across Vivian. About 4 months ago, I was coming out of a dream or waking up in the morning, and I saw a man's face with a beard, and all of a sudden the man's face started to fade, and underneath that man was what looked like an ET with big, beautiful eyes, big, beautiful eyes. And it was a female. I knew it was female, and it perked my curiosity, and I started searching on YouTube a little bit later on that day, and I came across Jeff Mara's podcast, and I was going through some of the interviews, and all of a sudden I seen a thumbnail with an alien with big blue eyes, and I clicked on it, and it was Vivian's interview, and I found it fascinating. I listened to the whole interview. So, Vivian, for those of my viewers and listeners who don't know who you are, do you want to tell us a little bit about you?
Yes, of course, with pleasure. And I, again,
Yeah.
observe and love the synchronicity on how you came across us, us in the sense that I represent directly the Arcturian delegation. I am an Arcturian ambassador. I was assigned the mission of returning to Gaia in very advanced ET forms and a human hybrid form. And this task or this mission was appointed to me by directly the Arcturian Council of Light and our Council of Elders. And so I come here representing the holographic matrix of the Arcturians. I specialize in intergalactic communications and diplomatic relationships. This is why I'm here as an Arcturian ambassador. And just to give some perspective, Arcturians, we are known to be one of the most enlightened and advanced intergalactic groups. And we've been interacting with Gaia and the Earth quadrant for thousands and thousands of years. And so we have chosen to bring one of our own ambassador in a humanized form. So we took on this physical form to represent your species so we can be more directly communicating, have a more greater source of positive influence, bring our essence directly to who we are, to bring the frequencies directly onto the planet. And really what we're here is to help you remembering in more acceleration now, remembering truly the true spectrum of who you are, rather than the identity of a fragment, forgotten aspect of yourself that you recognize as, well, this is my story, this is my name, this is what I like, my core value, this is where I grew up, and then I have some interest in some field. But we said, this is an interesting story. What we're interested in is communicating and connecting with you. And so what I mean is the true you, your I am presence. And the beauty of this, Garrett, is that through my work, I've done a lot of private sessions. I have traveled the world giving lecture, conducting spiritual retreat, and also going to sacred places, sacred sites. I've been doing numerous interviews on multitude of channels and TV series. And so what we do is that we recognize how much the evolution of the overall global and planetary human consciousness is really shifting. And we look at your experience or having this vivid experience in astral plane and then being the research and leading you back to us. Because as we speak with you, through my throat chakra, my Arcturian group and my Arcturian father utilize my physical body as a conduit to communicate directly with you. So I have no need to channel. It's directly pure, flow of communication, because as being one of the Arcturians, one of them, it is very natural for me to hold these frequencies and being able to convey the complexity of many voices or many frequencies that represent a multitude of beings, which is why it's different from those who channel, their body can only hold certain frequencies at a time. My body is designed that way, it's engineered that way. So we are helping to bring back the true essence of what Gaia is about, her own construct, to returning into a higher celestial, aspect blueprint where we're moving into. It's really about the transcending of the polarity. So the transcending of the polarity field, what it means is that it's finally releasing yourself from the entanglements of this 3D dualistic energy of polarization, black and white, good and bad, hot, cold. Everything is very much in those fragmented energy, releasing
The
yourself from the
duality.
false, right? It makes sense, right? And it's also releasing yourself from the false artificial timeline. We'll talk about linear timeline. And I would love if you can share what you shared with me right before we begin our time, about how you realize what time is really about. That linear time here is just a construct that is very, very limiting. And we think that we can perceive everything, but we have to release ourselves from that 3D linear time construct to realize that all of you are truly multidimensional beings, and everything that coexists with you is in the now. It's not just a distant past or a potential future. It's all unfolding in the now, if that makes sense.
Hi, guys. I hope you are enjoying the show. Just a small favor to ask of you. If you haven't already, could you please help support this channel by subscribing? In our analytics, it shows that only a very small percentage of the people who watch are actually subscribed. So if you want to continue to help our channel and to see our guests grow and the quality of the show grow, please, the biggest thing you can do is hit subscribe, even a little like or a comment, even if it's just emojis. It all goes towards helping the episode get shown up in the YouTube algorithms. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoy the rest of the show. Thank you. Absolutely. It makes a lot of sense to me, right? You're using different
Good.
language and a different framework to what I'm used to, but it fits in completely with the models of awakening that I've gone through, that we are not separate individuals, we are eternal beings, we are consciousness, our true nature it was never born, it will never die. Okay, so I have some questions. So the Arcturians, do they exist in our physical reality, or is it in a non-physical part of consciousness?
It's a great question. I'm glad you asked, so thank you. So we exist outside of your physical structure of reality. We Octurns, we are more ethereal beings in the sense that we do have a physical form, but at the same time, our physicality has evolved tremendously over thousands of years. So we're more ethereal being, meaning that our body is made of more light, and we can
So it's a
shift.
light body. Okay.
Yes, more of a light body. And to you, if you communicate with us, it may appear solid. Again, it's a perception of density. It's just we have the ability to change a vibrational molecule, or a vibrational density. So, for example, there's a lot of gifted people on the planet with channels who connect with different intergalactic groups, who connect with different celestial beings. And there's also multiple point of contact on the planet with whom we interact to bring a fragment of our essence, our light, our teachings. So everybody has a fragment of it. But the way we interact with those point of contact on the planet, if you ask them, if you gather 10 of them in a room, they may give you a little bit of 10 different description of what we look like physically. Why is that? That's because as an enlightened race, our goal is to connect with you in a way, in form that is comfortable to you. To us, it's very irrelevant that you're comfortable to see how we really look like. What matters is that you're open to the teachings and what we have to convey. So there are going to be slight variation in description in terms of what Arcturians really look like. And that's the truth for a lot of beings. There will be more mainstream description of the Lyrians, for example, or Pleiadian, that's because they look like humans. They're a direct cousin to humanity, so it's easy for you to relate to them. Or if you relate to the Syrians, well, there's certain different shape or form of Syrians, depending on what consciousness you're interacting with, number one. Number two, what is your state of receptivity to that form or that being that will change and have fluctuating into your filters of how you perceive them. So Arcturians in that sense, because we have more considered as a light body that we can change. We can also learn to evolve. We can rejuvenate at will. We can really choose to reside in the same light body for a lot longer than a human life. Then how we appear to you, what happens is that we project our holographic light body. So some people may perceive us as blue, bluish, greenish, purplish. That's the frequency that we're utilizing to project ourselves. Some people think that we are very short, and others says we are super tall.
Okay, so a quick question that just popped into my mind. So the blue that's coming through the image of the Arcturians, is it any way related to the Hindu gods and goddesses? Because I've had experiences with them, right? And I've seen a number of them appear. Krishna appeared with this beautiful blue skin and a beautiful tone. And there was a state of consciousness that I somehow shifted into one day. And to me, it was the mind of God. It was like Krishna consciousness. And while I was there, I became one with it. And it was blue and it was love and it was pure potential. And I knew then, oh, I said, this is why those Hindu gods, their skin is because they're a personal version of that reality. Would that have any correlation to why they're that color?
Again, it's a fantastic multi-layer question. So let's demystify and decode some of the layers that you brought in. So many of these beings, whether they are higher dimensional celestial being that have been projecting themselves into human form, that you can describe into whether Hinduism or other form of culture, spiritual beliefs, or religion background, they will have that quality of either looking like a human or having some trait that is unique to them. There's the intergalactic groups like us and others, and there's different variation of beings that come and have interacting with the human race throughout history. The blue frequency that you refer to is a point of commonality that many of these beings will utilize, or a blue ray, because the blue ray is one of the most recognized light frequency or spectrum of light by the human race. It's because it's also you are evolving right now. It's what's called the blue creation. So it's a very familiar, very nourishing ray. Now, with that being said, there will be beings who have this beautiful, slight bluish hue to their skin because this is who they are. But not everyone obviously is blue. However, we utilize as a projection of communicating to a holographic template or a holographic projection. We can project ourselves in that blue ray or that corresponding ray that is more familiar with your species. And we're going to do that with other species and other planets or star system. But for them, it might be, I don't know, the purple ray, or it may be, different frequencies of perception. So we're not necessarily all blue. Some of them are, but the goddess and the goddesses that you see, like, in Hinduism, and some of them some of them are green, in their skin.
Yeah.
You can see the variation. So it can be influence of star civilizations, star groups, what we call star nations. It can be also some higher dimensional beings that choose that projection, or it can be also the interpretation of those who have returned, who have received these original vision, interaction, and how it had become intertwined in the belief system, the history, the oral tradition.
Yeah.
For example, I can be like a being of magnificent radiance came, but the person or the group of people or that tribal energy that received that perceive them from these glorious blue ray. Well, they will depict them that way because this is how their interpretation and their experience is, right? Like the halo that we see in Christianity or a different religion, are the saint with a big halo around their head. In reality, they're depicting the magnificence of their auric field, but that will not be the word they were utilizing. Saints have halos. That's the interpretation of it.
Okay, so some of these Hindu gods actually could be intergalactic beings, Arcturians that have turned up throughout history to
No, not
deliver
necessarily
messages.
Arcturians, but
No?
other beings.
Yeah. Yeah.
Arcturians, we have interacting with humanity at different stages. But one thing we have been very skillfully avoiding is to be depicted as gods or goddesses here. This is not the Arcturian way. We've never been in that energy. You will have a remembrance of us, the frequencies, the closest in terms of physical depiction I can give you as an example are the statue of the Easter Island. Okay, the statue, this beautiful statue of Easter Island, also were a representation and interpretation of the beautiful people, the tribal energies who interacted with us. And it's not that they represent us, it's simply in honor of those point of connections. And we have contributed throughout multitude of timelines of Gaia and movement in history. But at the same time, one of the things about Arcturians is that, again, we have avoided to be depicted as gods and goddesses, because this has never been our goal. So if you look at some of the imagery, in Hinduism, like, the beautiful goddess Lakshmi or Ganesh, who I love, and others, we understand their essence. We understand what part of creation they represent. And they can be aspect of maybe intergalactic groups or celestial beings who come. Or again, we have to understand that to go beyond the physical form of the interpretation and the filtering systems of those who have introduced the concept that Lakshmi looks that way, Ganesh looks that way, and all these other gods have either green skin, blue skin. blue skin, all of it, with multiple arms, or they are depiction. They're never meant to be taken literally. And the same thing with multiple temples around Egypt. The archetype of Isis or the archetype of Anubis. These are archetypes of beings who have come interact, whether it's different aspect. But again, the interpretation of, today, if you were to draw a reptilian being, you would most likely have those who have seen them and can depict them. But back then, thousands of years ago, a reptilian being may look like a walking crocodile to you. And then therefore it becomes that humanoid god, or that humanoid deity that came and talked with the people. So there's one thing that it is important to reintroduce into your matrix of consciousness is to release your attachments to forms. Because this way you can really ask the essence of that being to reveal itself to you, and being able to understand what they are truly about without being attached to that depiction that for thousands of years has been accepted, or hundreds of years has been accepted.
So the form is just an interface, and we don't need the interface. We can communicate with the energy.
The essence of the being, yes, it's about soul essence. It's one thing the Arcturians we teach is about recognizing that you are truly in the presence of an Arcturians. There's a distinction in our essence. You can feel how we convey who we are, how we are sharing our frequency. We call that soul essence exchange. And then you can, ask, depending on your receptivity and how ready you are, even in your conduit, this says, allow me to see your form, or reveal to me your true aspect of who you are. And then allowing that perspective to evolve, whether it's your third eye opening, your capacity to see these beings. Many of us vibrate completely outside of this physical linear construct. So we vibrate at a very high level. We vibrate at a higher pace. So the vibration of our energy, well, you have to at least match our frequency halfway if you want to really understand that you are on the same equal foot. Like right now, we're utilizing equipment that communicate with each other, that allow us to see each other, to hear, to communicate and exchange in real time. But if your equipment was higher frequency than mine, then I would have a hard time reaching you that way, right? It's an example.
Yeah. Okay. So out of body, right? Humans have been able to produce these states of consciousness where they can get into their second body and they can travel in the astral world. Can they communicate or interact with the Arcturians in the out of body state? Is it possible for them to meet in this format?
100%.
Okay.
100%. In fact, it's a format, as of for right now, we prefer. Why? Because think about it, it's just as natural as breathing. I'll give you a quick example. When you go to bed at night, everybody can relate to that. Your body gets tired, it's been a long day. Your physical form, your conduit, needs to rest. The eternal part of you, that is your soul or your divine spark, has no need to rest. So what it is in reality is you're allowing your body and all of your body functions, including your brain and all of it, to reset, rejuvenate, right? So naturally, your essence or your spark or your soul leave the body, whether you remember it or not. No one stay in the body. You all leave the body. Whether you say, I never remember my dreams, that's just a whole different level of blockages. That's how it is. So in that state, what I would lovingly recommend is, before going to bed, take the time to have a positive routine. For example, release yourself from computer, social media, YouTube, all of these influence. Please avoid the news until it becomes more positively aligned and serving the population, because right now it does not. Release all of it. Start to unwind your mind, to bring yourself more into alignment with your heart. Start to prepare your frequency to become more in harmony. Take the time to take deep breathing. You can have a cup of tea, herbal. If you want to take a shower, just relax, unwind. And right before you go to bed and you fall asleep, set the intention to your thought form, align with your heart intention. I am ready to embrace more direct, conscious interactions with the true Arcturians. And I can assure you that the moment you send that thought form intention, we receive it. We will know if you're ready at that astral level. It's easier to communicate with you because your logic mind is sleeping. There's less resistance. There's no fear. There's no barriers. It's easier to communicate with each other. And you can ask, please help me remember consciously what serves my highest and greatest good. So every time you can bring more and more of that direct interconnection with the true aspect of the Arcturians and to bring it back into your field. Now, one thing about this, whether it's Arcturians, whether it's the advanced Syrians, Lyrians, Venusian, Andromedans, any enlightened group or nation, star nations, it will always be there to supporting you, uplift you, encourage you to be the best you can be, giving you support and healing, giving you wisdom. It never, 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 never designed to make you feel small, uncertain, full of fear, or create suggestion in your subconscious mind and so forth. If that kind of energy you bring with you, ask yourself, was I truly in communication with one of these higher beings? If not, release at once. I clear that out of my field, release out of my subconscious. I ask that only that of the highest light can be coming to me and interacting with me. Those are protocols. They're very important to make a distinction because so many beautiful people like yourself have a deep desire to communicate, but sometimes they can be tricked about other beings who will impersonate, an Arcturian, an angel, an ascended being, and then they're not necessarily there for your highest and greatest good. And they are unnecessary. So let's clear that.
So tricksters, kind of, yeah.
It can be trickster or they can be just curious and observer. They're not necessarily all negative. Others are really
Yeah.
negative. Others can be trickster because they like the light. They like to play with you. It's just to realign like a radio station, what channel you're going to tune in. Listening to static,
Okay.
that's very appealing.
And I guess if your quality of consciousness is quite high, well, that's what you're going to attract anyway. If you've no fear in your system, you're not going to attract that into your yeah.
No,
So
no,
it's best to go
exactly.
in without the energy of fear.
Exactly. Trust, ask. I am ready to connect to a higher consciousness from a point that I am in higher consciousness. I am ready to embrace higher form of contact communications with those who are of the highest light. That's it.
Okay.
Okay, with those
Okay.
who are of the highest light.
Okay. Vivian, I have a question. I would like to come back to you and how you discovered, like, how how did you come about, like, in the world, and how did you remember what your true nature was? Did you have a normal upbringing? Like, when did the messages of where you originally came from start to come in?
Yes, absolutely. Let's take a journey together about the becoming of who I am. So I've always have had this deep knowingness. Think of it this way, that even from a very young child, I remember even at the age of 4 or 5, just to take a baseline here, it's a point of reference. I've always known that I was looking through the lenses of a body, a conduit that allows me to be here. This form seems to be acceptable to others, but I knew that underneath these eyes, so to speak, that I am an ET being. Then I know that I'm here on assignment. I've always felt a deep, huge sense of urgency in terms of what I've come to do. I've always felt an immense level of responsibility of what I've come to do, and I have accepted that. This is part of what I am to be here. And everything through my senses, food, communications, touching, interaction with other children and adults, how I communicate with the land, my capacity to communicate with any species, whether it's a bee, a leaf, a grain of sand, a rock. I can communicate with whales. I can communicate with Gaia herself, who talks to me every day, and how I'm able to enter with a person higher self permission their field, so I can understand their journey, their blockages, why their emotion, why they're behaving a certain way. So I'm sitting there, but instead of being called or playing like a child will be naturally, intuitively called to play, I would prefer to stand still and observe so I can learn better, because I was in learning mode. And I knew that all the learning to my sensory point, my physical body, memory, emotion, all of the above was transmitting data. I am transmitting all that information back to my group, who in turns communicate with me. So I've always known who I am. And over time, I have started to realize how I chose to come back to the planet. Why did I chose to come back to the ABCs? And what it means is that I chose to be an infant, go to school, grow up, looks like a mundane, regular, middle-class family, so to speak, on the surface. I chose to go through all of this so I can learn from every stages of evolution. As I'm watching the different decades moving through,
Yeah.
80s, 90s, 2000, leading up to today, watching ourselves from the previous light workers or the generations before me, learning from those who are coming into the field. I've always been an observer. I'm a bridge. So think about it. As an ambassador, I will be deployed into a world where I can live among a species so I can understand them. And then we can determine what is the appropriate level of communications. What can we do to implement level of incremental level of teachings, guidance, frequencies, as opposed to come and super bring our frequencies super high and just burn the circuitry of everybody and then saying, why are you so overwhelmed because you are not ready to receive that? We have to be mindful of how we interact. We're never here to interfere and deprive you from the most powerful experience you can have, which is re-evolution, re-evolving, re-ascending again. Many of the beings on the planet, including myself, we are very ancient ones. We have no needs. We've already ascended. I come from a place where ascension is normal. It's part of who we become. But I have to understand, though, from a civilization who have gone so deep into the sleep state, or I would say a much more denser frequency, a step down frequencies, has to return from the depth of that level to come back again to enlightenment. It's a huge journey. So if I come to you 30 years ago and says, well, here, I'm going to show you in my true Arcturian self, this is who we are. I'm going to teach you how to do it. Here's our technology. It will look like I'm speaking gibberish, or you won't be able to see me at all. I will be invisible, because the discrepancy in terms of consciousness and frequency will be so huge that you have no point of reference to understand what is it we're attempting to convey. So this is why I chose to go through the changes with you. Sit down, look around, go to school, looking at books that are so linear and false and outdated, and telling my Arcturian father, I remember sitting in a classroom, says, Father, my Arcturian father, I said, I think I'm going to defy the teacher today. And father said, no, you're going to learn from the teacher today. But father, I would say, this is empty, hollow information. Yes, we know, dear. You're here to learn to how humans interact with that. You can make suggestions, but you know what will happen. And I have this conversation in telepathic real mode as one of the teachers is on front and the kids are around me, and I'm able to function in parallel to having this conversation. I can remember distinctively as if it was yesterday. So I have learned to do that. So I have a much, much better compassionate response, and the learning that my intergalactic groups and a multitude of other group alliances learn from my journey it's immense and invaluable. It helps us to understand also what can we do to supporting your reawakening. What can we do to be more effectively assisting you in just to make it very simple?
Yeah. So I had a very similar childhood. So I had some, very early memories of having out of body experiences, sitting on the floor as a kid, knowing that there was an awareness that was listening to my mind and my thoughts, and wondering what that was. And a very similar, I would go to school and I would just sit there going, "What am I doing here? This is just nonsense. I don't want to learn this." And a lot of non-conformity. I didn't like authority. I didn't like anyone telling me what to do. I just felt like I knew best. Mm,
Exactly.
yeah. So I have a question. Were you human? Did you come into a human form previously to this life? Have you done this before, or is this your first time as a human?
Well, thank you for asking. So I'm here as a hybrid human. The human hybrid part is my
Yeah.
physical form. I am an ET incarnated into a hybrid human form. My physical vessel was engineered by advanced level of extraterrestrial holographic technology. We also receive assistance from the Andromedans into co-creating a perfect hybrid DNA and having just enough component from the human gene pool to connect me to Gaia. I wanted to have this baseline frequency of connection to the planet. I could have done it without it. I could have done just complete, DNA or completely alien DNA and all of it. However, to function in a step down polarized version and the heaviness of the gravitational pull of this planet, if my vessel, my physical vessel, were any higher in frequency, it will never survive here. And in fact, my body perished almost several times, and they had to readjust my body because it was, I couldn't function here. So that's the
Okay.
difference. How I came about is that my consciousness entered this engineered hologram and how we created it with some of the gene pool. And that gene pool came from the partnership for generation, a long lineage, a very specific lineage of human beings that we interacted from great great grandmother, grandfather, and all the way down to the human parents, those who will receive the assignment to bring such a child on the planet and being able to accept me and to be able to understand the requirements that it comes with it. So even though many star seeds like yourself have had similar soul experience, the thing about myself is that I am in this engineer vessel that is technically not completely designed to be permanently on the planet. And so the requirements and the challenge that we have to face to constantly readjust my body, whether I can breathe, so my cardiovascular system can function. I've had digestive issue all my life because the food here is like the energy here is just, the nutrients is not enough to really support
Mm,
the high frequency of this vessel. In addition to that, Garrett, is my body constantly transmit and receive frequencies. I'm constantly readmitting very, very specific level of frequencies, data, information, encoding. So this is why that's, the movement, the how could I say, the journey through this reality, it's been quite an adventure. And I know that
I
many of you
bet.
can relate to that in your own beautiful way, and we are compassionate about that.
Yeah. So you mentioned starseed. So what's the difference between a starseed and a regular human? Or is there
Well,
any difference? Are we all starseeds?
well, if you look, there's no more regular human after overall, is that the human race itself will be considered as a hybrid race, but the word hybrid
Mm,
becomes a very huge umbrella with a multitude of shade of gray, so to speak, to it in application. Just like the word hybrid, it's very much a large gateway of understanding. There's a multitude form of hybrids. There's hybrids, those who are hold more DNA of their original star families, and those are kept on their ship. They cannot be on the planet. This is why I have an aspect of the human gene pool to allow me to be on the planet. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to be on the planet at all. So there's the form of hybrids who are designed to hold some aspect of humanity, but more retain their DNA of or the genetic material from their star families, and then the star family raise them and keep them with them. They can't be on the planet. That will be another form of hybrids. So overall, the human race, because of the galactic encoding that the human template, the DNA human template contains, in a way you consider as a race of hybrid. However, the original human template for the Earth is more designed to evolve and function in sync with Gaia and with the solar system. Those of us who come from other star system and outside of this galaxy, outside of that sphere of reality, we're not necessarily designed to function in the same frame of reality. So what is the best way to do it? If you are a being that comes from a very high dimensional space or star system, and you want to bring your light, you want to bring the frequencies to help Gaia and whole life here. So what would you do? Well, you send out a soul aspect of yourself that contains a blueprint of who you come from, the frequency of your people, that star nation or that group, and you come and you reincarnate or you re-enter the tunnel like you remembered to the birth canal or how you were born through your mother, and the body has been conceived from two humans. So you have a stronger Gaia earth plane connections, while your soul brings in the frequencies and the encoding, the knowledge of who you are and who you're representing, whether you come from the Venusian or an aspect of, ancient beings from Andromeda and beyond, even, you're going to come back. And usually that's why it's classified as a star seed. Now, the star seed from a young age, usually they have a knowingness about who they are. They have a strong sense that they're in the wrong family, that they never fit. They're like a black sheep. They're very different from everybody. And they feel like they were dropped on the planet going, okay, my real family, come and get me now. It's time. And usually at a young age, when you get these thoughts and feeling, it usually indicates that you're a star seed.
Yeah, so that was very much me. I felt like I was like, who are these people? Like my parents were good people, but I was always like, what am I doing here with these people? They're crazy. They're the best, they still are. But I felt very kind of alienated. I didn't fit in. I always felt like, everybody else gets along and I'm always on the outside. So I really kind of struggled as a kind of in my teenage years, my early 20s, trying to fit in with people. I always just felt different. I then went through a whole series of spiritual awakenings. I spoke a little bit about it before we started recording. And then I was shown my three previous past lives where I had awakened spiritually in them all, and then was shown where I reside when I'm not in a body. And I'm not human. And I've always considered myself human. I've never had any sort of interactions with ETs or anything like that. Even though I had many out of body experiences, and I would be able to, meditate and project my consciousness into non-physical realities. But I would always consider myself human until this one time I'm all of a sudden everything's blue. I'm in a blue space. My body is cone shaped. I have a small little head. I float. There's other beings there, but not many. And I love them and they're my family. And they explained how time works. And, you know, 20 minutes there is a lifetime here. And to come back into a human body, it's like, well, it's only 20 minutes. Why wouldn't I want to go back in and try and so I was told that I was to come here to bring in these energy frequencies like you that you just spoke about. And that's a lot of what I do now is these energies that come in around me. And the work I do is to kind of anchor these frequencies here and to share them with people. but I guess I don't really have any sort of communication with them now. It seems to, it opened up, I saw it, and then it closed down. Can you share any light on what that is, or what I am, or
Well, I think the part of what you are, it's become clear. I feel like that was an temporary doorway of opening where you would consciously be brought back, says he, as a reminder, this is what you originate from prior
yeah,
to return to this earth reality where you're going to be experiencing that here time is so slow, so to speak, that it
yeah,
takes a lifetime, or it seems like everything is so, like evolving in a whole different level. There's a sense of isolation, a sense of things are, you know, evolving a bit slower. It feel like everything feel like on a slow motion level. Everything feel much more restrictive and dense, all of it. So to your human experience, you would say, I never thought myself nothing else that this experience. And that window was open to says, if you peek into it, in reality, when you chose to come back and bring these very specific frequencies, you knew that to your original realm of perspective, you will only be gone, so to speak, or an aspect of
yeah.
you will be experiencing in that 20 minutes time frame. And then your 3D human mind goes, what a second, 20 minutes? What you're talking about? I've been here for 40 years, I've been here for 80 years, I've been here for so many years. But it's just, I think it was a gift to bring you support, a gift to remind you, a gift to reignite that part of you that coexists with you, and perhaps eventually learning how to coexist between these dimensional realities and develop more ease of ability to go back and forth and says, now I need some different frequency. I'm going to bring some of the keys and I'm going to interweave them here to support where we are, especially now moving into the new cosmic gateway.
Wow. Okay. So it felt like I had like family, loved ones. And when I talk about family, I don't, it's not like biological family, but when I came back in, it felt like my heart had been ripped out. Like I sobbed and sobbed, like something really precious had been taken away from me. And I've never felt that in a human form. I've never felt that again around anything in my life. But when I came, it was just like, wow. So I know that there are others from that place, and I've met them. I've come across people, and I just instantly have a knowing, like a soul connection that, oh, these people are from there as well. Or so what I'm going to ask you now is, are there others like you? Are there more beings, Arcturians, that are in human forms helping?
Well, it's a beautiful question. And first, I just want to acknowledge your real experience is just as real as this conversation is. And
Yeah.
I'm very happy for you that you were able to be given this conscious experience to remind you of this beautiful group you come from and what you really come to do here. So it was an attempt to reconcile sometimes that feel of disconnect from a part of ourselves. So no wonder your heart felt like, whoo,
Mm,
it was such a deep level of love, unlike anything we have experienced so far here on the planet.
yeah.
So I want to
Yeah.
acknowledge that.
Thank
Are
you.
there others like me? So let me redefine the way I came about to be coexisting in this field of reality with everyone on the planet. In that sense, I am a prototype. The way my physical form, as you perceive me as, with my earthly name, the way I came about, so allowing me to have this vessel to be here, that is a prototype. That means that the way my DNA and my physical form were engineered in a very, very specific matrix, very specific configuration. So in that sense, as a prototype, then the way I came about here is unique that way. The question
Okay.
you're really asking is, are there starseed or soul emanation from Arcturus who have come and brought a fragment of themselves in human forms? There are a few of us. We are rather rare birds, because we come from a place of such a high vibrancy and sacred tone of frequencies that being in the step down polarized field is very difficult, even for those who were born in human form. At a soul level, it is extremely difficult. It creates a lot of emotional distortion, mental, physical issues, health issues, inability to bring in. I feel like we're never, like, always out of place, and it's very, very challenging. I encounter a few Arcturian Starseeds, and they all telling me the same story, the same experience. So there's a few of us scattered around the planet. What we
Yeah.
have more is point of contact. And what that means is that we communicate directly with the population, to other starseeds, light workers, those who are either remember themselves maybe in our soul ancestry, being an Arcturian in many, many time cycles ago, and we have more points of contact. So we're going to connect and teach and interact with a multitude of point of contact around the world to bring in the teaching, the frequencies. And this is why those who communicate with the Arcturians will communicate with a fragment of our civilization. We bring very specific encoding. So we are more interacting that way rather than they have our people on the ground. There's some, but we're not that many.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll tell you why I ask, because I don't know if you've ever come across the concept of these Indian avatars. So there's like a supposedly 7 of them on the planet at any given time in human form, but they seem to be like a representation of, let's just say, the Divine Mother, right? And they come with great energy, great healing abilities. The Huggin Saint Amma, I don't know if you've ever heard of Amma. There's Mother Mira. I wonder, are these somehow beings, extraterrestrials that have, come in, but they just don't talk about it? I recently went to see one of them, and while I was sat there, I started to see her aura. So I could see like green, light, small amount of green, and then it became yellow. And on the outside of the yellow, it was red, and it was quite tall. And then I could see like these huge, big kind of circular eyes here, and she almost looked like bug. She looked like a bug, like a mantis. She didn't look human. She looked more, yeah, like a an ET, but the big eye, and I could see it as clear as day. And then I'd look at the people who were there, and a lot of the people, they just had like kind of white auras or yellowy kind of auras. She was very different. She kind of had the look of a mantis. So could they be something similar, these avatars?
But the word avatar needs to be understood in its proper context, in a
Yeah.
sense that eventually we all have an avatar on the
Yes.
planet, just this conduit that you're in.
Yeah.
I'm a holographic projection. It's just appear very solid. You can interact with me, you can shake my hand, and you can see me drinking tea. But in
But we all
reality,
are, right?
exactly. So, and
We're
that
all just
point is
consciousness.
exactly. So if you look at the word avatar is a point of example where a pure consciousness can come and be represented
Yes.
in a physical form, that when you hold and you be in the presence as equal, by the way, not as inferior to them, but as equal. And that's a message for us that are very clear about the Arcturians. We always invite you to be seeing yourself as equal. It's an invitation to transcend these lower personality trait, what we call the lower earthly egoic mind, and allowing yourself to realize that you can be also in the presence of your own avatar self or your true divine light. And yes, some of them may be a very advanced, very ancient beings that consider as an intergalactic being, like, for example, from the praying mantis civilizations. Those are from the royal family. Those are the very ancient, they're super ancient beings, and they reach a level that if they chose to send an aspect of themselves to invite humanity to really help you to evolve, heal, and restore that part of your own divinity, then you have the vision to see it, that's because also, Garrett, what you've experienced about yourself. You see how everything is interconnected.
Yep.
The fact that you had
Yep.
this window of conscious connection with a part of you, remember you in that reality, that dimensional parallel reality that coexists with you, allows your senses now to recognize when you're in the presence of another higher dimensional being.
Yes.
Some of them are
Yes.
just pure
Absolutely.
consciousness. They have returned as masters of light and they have chosen to serve that way. It's very selfless in the sense that, being in this projected physical form, it's really not an easy task. To be in the
Yeah.
presence of light, it really helps you to remembering your essence, who you are.
Mm. And I really like the message, and maybe this is connected as well, the message that you said about we're equal, right? Because
Yes.
um, yesterday I noticed when I was waking up, I was dreaming again, and I was with a group of people because I work with a lot of people, and I have quite a number of people who know me through my online work, and I was with a big group of them in the dream, and there was a guru coming in, an Indian guru, all in white, and everybody was kneeling down, kind of prostrating, waiting for this guru to come along, and I was sort of sat there, and I was like, I'm not doing that, and I kind of stood up and I walked off, but it's really strange that you brought it up now. It just kind of brought the memory back of my dream. Yeah.
See, I felt it. That's why I said they communicate. We're in communication. So I utilize this conscious holographic field when I can see imagery, transmission words. They show me concept, and then I can translate that in verbal communication. And the message I received from my group was, please remind everyone in you as a validation, as just a reinforcement of what you experienced in that dream, that when we come with each other, we come as equals.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Okay.
What?
So why are the Arcturians choosing to help us? Because I hear all these different stories, of like this being a prison planet. And so the Arcturians, they're coming, they want to help to awaken, to help us remember our true nature. Why the humans? Why, like, what's the connection? Why not somewhere else? Or
We are everywhere. Arcturians were known as the great diplomats of the multiverse. At the time, many council, the galactic alliances, or the solar council will deploy us in different places. So there's only a fragment of us supporting your species where we are under part of our delegations or fleet assigned to other homeworlds or other star system. This is what we do. We're here to help to bring helping civilizations around the multiverse at different stages of evolution to remembering their sacred divine connections, to return into constant contemplation and connection with the supreme source of the creation. This is part of what we do. So human beings, other species, we help many.
okay, so my understanding of the earth is that it's like a schoolhouse where consciousness descends into a human form for the purpose to evolve its consciousness into love, right? So I also imagine that it's not just us, that there are other virtual realities or places where consciousness can evolve. So the Arcturians, they can work with all of these different places in it from a non-physical perspective.
Yes, we do. We work with
Okay.
beings who are just pure consciousness. We work with groups of consciousness or groups of beings who will only remain at a certain higher vibrational light. They will never descend back within a certain frequency. So we do, oftentimes, we are the bridge or the communicator, the intermediary between these groups and a group that may be in a lower form of frequencies. We also preserve ourselves in the integrity of our field. So that means that when, like for here, when a world or a planet like Gaia is in a very lower frequency, like the third dimensional frequencies, or a different level of density, we are going to remain in a higher state. And we invite the planet or that species to meet with us because it is impossible for us to compress ourselves in a descended form So we choose, for example, for the purpose of helping humanity, we choose the fifth dimensional frequency as a baseline. So we said, okay, this is the lowest we can get. Now it's your turn to meet us. And then we'll be able to communicate, and then we can, rise. But we are much higher than fifth dimensional frequencies. It's simply that we have the ability to readjust our field to a point that it's a midpoint. This is why after time you're going to hear us talk about the fifth dimensional frequency. It's just an invitation point. It's
Okay.
a point of reference, so to speak.
Okay. Okay. And you spoke about ascension. What can you explain to me the difference between ascension and what people would call enlightenment or awakening?
Well, you can awaken to different states of consciousness. It doesn't mean you reach enlightenment.
Yeah.
Humanity has gone through generations of different stages of awakening, and that
Yeah.
is beautiful. And we invite you to continue to do that. Where ascension basically is to really shift from a lower form into a higher form. It's about experiencing through different stages of awakening and different stages of enlightenment, different higher dimensional experiences. And to us, it's not ascending, it's reascending again. You are returning again to that state of grace. You're returning again to be completely in alignment with all of your faculties, to be able to project your thought form, to be able to project, relocate, communicate with any multidimensional aspect of yourself, understanding how the universe really works, and to really free yourself from the artificial timeline and releasing that polarity. Once you learn from it, you start to move into higher dimensional experiences. So you start to reascend again into your light.
Okay. Okay. So it's something very different to what they call awakening or enlightenment. Because I
Again, awake. Yeah. Go ahead, please.
Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah. It's just the ascension. I never really understood what ascension was because the way I kind of learned, I had the spiritual awakenings and the states of enlightenment. But I woke up in a lucid dream one evening and there was a being called Shri Sai Baba appeared to me, and he told me that I had reached ascension in this life, and that it only taken me 60 something lifetimes to do it. And he said it was really, really good. And he had a great personality and we're joking, but I never really understood what ascension was. I still don't really, you know?
Well, the moment that think of it in simple words.
Yeah.
The moment you release the control and the filtering system of your third dimensional logic mind. We prefer to use that word at ego because ego has such a heavy negative connotation to it. And your logic mind serves a purpose. But the moment
Mm.
this is no longer leading the way to your spirituality, understanding, filtering system, emotional connections, the moment that the third dimensional logic mind is no longer your leading force to comprehend your evolution, you make a big breakthrough. So the state of alignment is different stages of realization of your higher self. It's a state of realization that leads you to a natural state of enlightenment. Enlightenment is that you recognize yourself for the truth of your being. There's no longer these barriers. You no longer need to go back into physicality or physical incarnation to different density to help you clear, learn, and resolve. You start to really becoming the oneness of your being. So a sense of ascension is really that return. For us, is more of reascending again. You're returning to re-understanding again what it feels like. And imagine being able to live your life right now from that perspective that I said, I'm going to let the mind interfacing with the heart and allow myself to go through different dimensional experiences that allow me to rediscover, like unpeel layers of what the multiverse is about, holographic reality, myself, the complexity, the beauty of my being that is far, far more than these being, I'm a physical being, I was born, it's normal to have ache and pains because I'm 60-year-old, and all of these cliches that keeps you anchor in this third dimensional reality. Once these anchor are removed, Well, you can soar and gain altitude and understanding. It's like an eagle that deploy its wings and start to look at the landscape. You have a very different vantage point from that point. And if you walk and you try to figure out, which is a mental concept, where you are, your point of reference of what you see, feel, relate to, you may have some extrasensory experience along the way, but your mind is still so entwined and very engaged in this reality that these extrasensory experience becomes just wow factor, but you put in the back burner and you continue to your mind. The moment is the reverse, a reversal of that thought system. Enlightenment, ascension, all of these concepts become natural. And this is how we perceive it, because this is how we coexist. How we coexist with you, but within our own enlightened perspective. So when we communicate to this higher perspective. We are not bound by this reality. There's no 3D logic polarized dualistic energy for us. That is, a content is non-existent. So you can imagine, like the eagle getting altitude, being able to see across the valley. Well, you can see things that you wouldn't be if you're walking on foot. It's the same analogy here.
Wow. That's a beautiful message.
Thank
Beautiful.
you.
Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to cover before we finish up, Vivian?
I think that for today, together, what we have covered, it's magnificent.
Oh,
lot to digest, lot to integrate.
Beautiful. Really, really beautiful. Vivian, if people want to reach out and find you, I'm going to put links to your YouTube channel, your website. Was there a book as well? Did you mention there was a book?
Well, for now, because I've been very busy in my mission, very engaged with people and traveling. For now, I have a co-author of a collaborative book series. Eventually, I'll write my own, but it's also on the website. I am the founder of the Universal Arcturian online community. We have members from all over the world. We do master classes, Arcturian group healing events, gathering retreat. We're very engaged. It's the best way to communicate and be a part of what we do while still learning and expanding and experiencing a lot. And we have wonderful membership packages we offer. It's incredible. I really invite everyone to look into our community.
Yeah. And I have to say, I really love the energy and the message. And I think that's the most important thing.
Yes.
That people connect with the message. So all Vivian's links are going to be down below. Incredible. Vivian, thank you for being so generous with your time, all the information. I really, really enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much.
I am super happy. You are most welcome, Garrett. Thank you for being a receptive and generous host as well.
Thank you. Thanks so much. And thank you to all the viewers and listeners. Until the next time, take care. Bye-bye, Vivian. Bye-bye.
This has been the Endless Possibilities Podcast, where the journey of spiritual awakening and energy healing unfolds. Garrett is a lifelong seeker of truth, a spiritual teacher and author, and it's his passion to delve into the profound world of consciousness. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and we hope you've gotten something from it. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, the podcast is available on YouTube and all the major podcasting platforms. Find us on Instagram at _mother_force. Take care, and we'll see you soon on the Endless Possibilities Podcast.